Well. Good afternoon, West Ham fans. Let's pick the starting 11 for the game in a few hours' time. We are but a few short hours away from European quarter-final first leg against BAYER Leverkusen. You've seen it. You've seen the live Instagram live things that West Ham's very own Jamie Talks is doing. Which just another one off the production line, Anton. Isn't it? We just
That's it.
we just
Keep giving the platform, and then off you go. Off you go. Enough fair play to them, and well done. That's good. It's amazing.
They're like home pigeons; they always come back.
Yeah. Massive. And I'm excited. I'm nervous, and I'm excited. I'm everything balled up into one. It's an opportunity, and listen, let's not forget we've been here before.
Yep.
And we're no newbies to this situation, not to Europe, not to being in a quarterfinal of Europe. I can't believe I'm even saying that again. It still feels kind of odd to be able to say that, but we're in a third consecutive quarterfinal in Europe. And again, coming up against this one feels, I don't even know if I could say this one feels, it feels different because they're the only unbeaten side in Europe. But it doesn't feel so different in terms of like when I think of the game against Sevilla, Lyon, all those games.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I feel like at the time they were like, whoa,
they had more European pedigree.
Yeah.
Where these guys, so Leverkusen are the form team in Europe. They're this season they are the form team. Last season, if you played against them, you would have probably went meh.
Yeah, but again, and I think that's not taking anything away from them because the task we've got is possibly bigger on paper in terms of if you look at how well they are playing and have been playing under Xabi Alonso. And if you haven't already, go and check out the shows that have come out yesterday: Budgie, Kieran, Old School Hammers, Moyes versus Xabi Alonso, etc. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm excited. I get excited about. I get excited about a quarterfinal. I get excited about the Europe, and I just want West Ham to do ourselves justice, get back to the London Stadium, and still be within a chance.
Yes.
Under the lights at the London Stadium, we know we play a part in that. And we can continue to keep playing a part in that. However, that's not taken away from the fans that have spent a lot of money getting themselves out there to Germany, and they'll be there in their thousands, and they will be backing up that side, left, right, and centre. Currently, BAYER Leverkusen have not been beaten, so West Ham could come in and take that.
41 games undefeated. I'm exactly the same. For me, it is only half time today. It is, as long as we're still in the tie, come the end of tonight rather. That's job done. It's not gonna. We know it's not going to be pretty. We know it's not going to be. I mean, in the press conference, Kurt Zuma said, "We play to win." Bollocks. There's no way we are playing to win. This is going to be Moyes ball extreme, particularly with Jarrod Bowen not playing. Obviously, we've just all come over from the disappointment of finding out that Calvin Phillips is unavailable for tonight. Apparently, he's picked up an injury, so Phillips will not be available.
Listen, I just do you know what? It is what it is with Phillips. I'll and I know you're jesting about that as well, but I'll back him to the guns. I know you are.
Oh, we always will.
Listen, the thing is, when you look at Leverkusen, they absolutely can. Well, I was just about to say something there, like they concede a lot of goals. I wasn't going to say it like that. They don't concede a lot of goals. They've only conceded 19 actually in the Bundesliga. But if you look at the last kind of games, which does take into account European fixtures and also the quarterfinal of the domestic cup, they've conceded 2 recently against Stuttgart. Where are we?
They were a minute away from being out of Europe.
Yeah. Hoffenheim got a goal against them. Karabakh got 2 as well. You know,
and 2 home and away.
Freiburg got a couple as well. So, and home and away, like you said, against Karabakh. So, the importance of our counter-attacking, the importance of our forward players is really key, but that also is disastrous if you consider that we're missing
our biggest scorers this season.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we don't have our defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And Emerson and Paqueta 1 yellow card away from being suspended for the return leg. So it's all going well.
There's so many of those caveats though. Like this is the business end of the season now. We're right into the business end of the season, right? So we're going to be safe in the Premier League. Brilliant, good. Let's try and finish as high as we possibly can. Finish for a European position in the league. That's what we want. But focus fully turns on to tonight's game. And tonight's game is turn up, do a job, and every single person that gets that opportunity, that shout out onto that starting 11 has to turn up, and anyone who has to come on as a sub has to turn up. And what I will say is the momentum has slightly gone in favor of a couple of our substitutes. If you think about what has happened as of late, in particular, even Creswell, even Ben Johnson, they've came on and they've done a job for West Ham, and that's all we can ask for. And we've been struggling with squad depth and the quality of squad depth, but it's the business end of the season. So if they're doing it in the business end of the season, then so be it. But I suppose the question is, Russ, do you replace like for like with Bowen when we've got someone like Cornet sitting on the bench? That's the question. We can talk about this today. When we've got Danny Ings on the bench, do you switch it up? What do you do? You know, there's so many different elements here. We've been talking about it in the group chat.
They could be. We know there could be plenty of elements, plenty of changeable elements, but we know the likelihood is it won't be. And that's the truth of the matter, isn't it? You know, it's like, Cornet could have been brought on half a dozen times in the last 12 games. So has Danny, but he's decided to do this or do that. It's always
so on that. I think Mabama will start up top. I think George Earthy will start in him. I think Knightsbridge will be in goal.
Will be in there. Exactly. We'll bring Callum Marshall because he can't technically play in the first team. But I don't know about European games, and so it'll be very. And I was saying to X the other day, it's all a bit Manny on a minimi about it. You know what I mean? It's like hopefully West Ham just don't leave Callum away, because we had that situation before. You could just see us doing something stupid like that. That is just the West Ham way. Right, anyway, let's get into it. As we always try and do. Anyone new to the channel, 24,000 of you now. Thank you very much. On the road to 25k. Couple of hours before we try and predict the starting 11. Obviously, we know some people who aren't going to be fit or aren't be playing. We know obviously Alvarez is suspended. We know Bowen hasn't travelled. Whether it's a knee injury, whether it's a bruised spine, we don't know. Moyes says it's a knee with damage. We don't know. We don't know. No one knows. That's the thing. Well, I think Moyes knows, but for some reason, everyone else thinks they know better. So Absolutely. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, bruv. So, goalkeeper situation. Now, obviously, we know that Areola's been out for the last few games. Fabianski's been deputising him in the league. Obviously, Fabianski is normally the European goalkeeper or the cup goalkeeper. So, if Areola was fit and had played the last couple of games in the Premier League, then there's no doubt Fabianski would be between the sticks tonight. But
I think actually we recalled Nathan Trott, and I think he goes straight in as the goalkeeper.
Well, I definitely think. Well, he played Friday. Vibej played against Young Ajax at home, away in the playoffs of the Danish Super League. I'm sure you're well aware of that. Yes. So no, I don't think Nathan Trott. I don't think Joseph Nang gets the nod. But is it Areola or is it Fabianski? What do you think he'll do?
I think we all know. It's going to be Fabianski, is it not?
Well, I'd imagine so. But there is a slight suggestion internally or externally rather that maybe with Areola being fit and not playing a lot, being fresher. Obviously, Fabianski is 39. He has played, more than he has done recently. I don't know. I think you're right. I think Fabianski will be between the sticks, and hopefully you'll see Areola back for the Fulham game on Sunday, and then back to normal.
Back to normal service should resume.
Indeed, it should do. Now, obviously, the tail end of the game against Wolves, not the tail end, but for the last 30 minutes, Moyes deployed almost like a back three. He didn't go like for like when Bowen was injured. He went for a back three, which is, again, very unlike David Moyes recently. He does stick to his 4-2-3-1 formation, or whatever they call it, a double pivot. But he went sort of rogue. He went back to the back three, which he hasn't done that for a long time.
No, he's not.
Do you think he'll employ that tonight, or do you think he'll go?
Personally, I do think he will, because I think that he, within reason, will want to pack out certain areas of the park, areas where they're dangerous. So, you've seen this morning, I'm going to talk to you about, and I've spoken to you about Naif Aguerd. He's back fit, fighting fit. I think he's in with a chance, personally, to slot back into that side, because I think one thing we're desperately going to need, Russ, against this Bayer Leverkusen side is pace. And we don't have pace with Mavropanos and Zuma, even though, fair play, I think they've actually been doing an okay-ish job. Still lots of issues back in our defence area, but I think so, because I think what's going to be key is this midfield battle, this defensive duties, and I think we already know, if we jump ahead slightly with Bowen's situation, if he's not going to replace like for like, then he's going to do something else somewhere else.
Yeah.
So where does that go? What do you think?
What do I think? I think there is. I think if Alvarez was fit, was available, I don't think we would do the back three. But I think we will, and whether Aguerd goes straight in or not, I think it's be an interesting one. He clearly doesn't like Aguerd at the moment. He's been available. He's been on the bench for a lot, and he's decided to, rather than put a naturally left-sided defender in the back two, he's put Kurt Zuma there.
But what's interesting about what you said there, though, is there could be an element of coming back from the African Cup of Nations and being a bit disgruntled. If rumours are led to be true that he is disgruntled and is looking for a move out, then there could be an element of that. It might not be, but there could be. And if not, and he's fighting fit, I just don't see why you wouldn't put him in.
It's true.
To be honest, because he's the natural. Right. He's the natural one to sit out there on the left hand side of those ones where Mavropanos would be the natural one to sit out there on the right. And then I would feel a little bit more confident having those three centre halves personally. Being you're going to need bullies, man. You're going to need bullies in that park tomorrow.
Well, particularly you've got Victor Boniface, who's their goal machine, who's been out for pretty much half of the season. He came back on Saturday when they in the 1-0 win away to Union Berlin, which is not good news for us, because yes, they have lost Adam Hlosek for this game and next Thursday's game, but they've got back their talisman. So who is there? Michael Antonio, in essence. And so I agree. I think you would. I mean, okay. Let's go with the back three. I think I think I think that's probably how I would deal with it, particularly with Mr. Obviously Alvarez out. Definitely, I think you need that sort of extra defender.
The only other option you've got there is, if you don't put Aguerd in, you're looking at Creswell, and I don't think we want to make that same mistake again.
True. He did play well against Wolves, though, didn't he?
He did, but I think there's a difference between coming on and starting a game at this level. I think Creswell of 3 years ago, okay, in you go, slot in there, left-hand side of the back three, perfect, no problem at all. I would hope that after... I'm not blaming him for the sending-offs and stuff like that, but it's particularly one of the sending-offs where lack of pace and couldn't get anywhere near the opposition player. And I think we're going to really need that pace. We're going to need people that can bully that attacking threat that comes from Bayer Leverkusen, but we're also going to really need that backup of pace. I mean, I feel, see when you've put them there, I genuinely feel a lot more comfortable knowing that if Zuma misses something and Mavropanos misses something, you've always then got the backup, because he can get back. He can get back quick.
No, I agree, and I think actually you've got sort of almost like a, I actually think Mavropanos is actually not too shabby in terms of pace, but it's Zuma is always bereft of it. I think if you can leave in the middle just to block, I mean, he surprises us as well. I mean, obviously, you look at Spurs. He had Son in his pocket. I did not assume he was. Son had barely a touch when we played him at London Stadium, and that really surprised me. I know it surprised you too.
And even at Wolves, though, I thought he was all right. Apart from like the first half, which nobody was great, he still blocked and he still cleared his lines and stuff like that. So
and you need that.
I'll give him a lot of credit for that, to be honest, because he, like you said, Russ, he's like a surprise package of West Ham. I can't get my head around the man. I don't understand how his body actually biologically works.
No.
Because he looks injured and runs and plays full 90 minutes and sometimes has crackers of games. And then the other times he looks like he can't even walk. But I don't understand it. But, what we need is our Captain Marvel, our captain, to stand up to the plate and dictate play tomorrow from the back. And we need to close up shop. That's what we desperately need to close up shop.
Good point. And also, I mean, the good point. I mean, that point about Mav. Obviously, he was playing in the Bundesliga for several years. Yeah. So, if anyone knows how to play against Leverkusen in our squad at the moment, it's him. Having that experience is vital. And also, we are going to have a handful of chances tonight. Most of them will be from corners, and you've got another central defender in there now in terms of another 6'3", 6'4" player, slightly taller than Alvarez, not much in terms of, but there's another central defender for both for the attacking set plays and also the defending set plays. So we're trying to keep it tight. Okay, we'll go with that. I think left wing back's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Pretty obvious, yeah. Mr.
Ollie Scarles gets to be called.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
Palmieri, he definitely jumps in there. And I think, do you know what? Fair play. I think he actually in this role, I think him and Agard would work okay.
Yes. Yes.
A West Ham with a back four playing a high line, I think Agard works okay, but not in a low block. But I think with West Ham having three at the back there, I think Emerson and Agard will kind of get a nice understanding, nice relationship. And that allows, obviously, with Emerson pushing up, Agard to slot in, and vice versa over the other side where we need to.
Yep, I agree. I think this is his more natural position in terms of Emerson.
Yeah,
that sort of wing back,
and that will be a threat. The thing with Emerson being further forward is when he's not further forward, he can get further forward. I sometimes still to this day thinks he puts the brakes on. Sometimes, he absolutely puts the brakes on. He could go. Yeah. He could go at opposition even more than what he does. But there's something, whether or not it's the instructions to say, if you're in a position where you think you can go, don't go.
Yeah,
because that could be the instructions. Because if you lose it, then bang, we're in trouble. But I've seen some occasions in games, and I'm screaming, I'm like, go, and he doesn't, and I'm like,
yeah.
But this having him further forward is definitely going to be an option for us.
I agree, definitely. Now, right wing back, obviously, Sufo had an absolute stinker, was taken off after 45 minutes. Whether it was because of a bad performance or a play revolt, of what some people said, we don't know. But he had a stinker of first half. Ben Johnson replaced him at half time. And then, obviously, midway through that, we then go back to a back three. He plays right wing back. I thought he had a really good half. Does Ben Johnson come into the side, or does Moyes stick with his generals and Sufal?
We could sit here and say generals. This is such an important game for West Ham. But I am concerned about Sufal again recently. It's for me personally that the Newcastle game was really highlighted at the problems that he was receiving down from Anthony Gordon. I mean, he really was struggling to deal with any of the threat. Then bang, it happened again in the next couple of games. And Johnson hasn't really genuinely put a foot wrong since he's been asked to step up to the plate. My kind of excitable mindset would go play Johnson, but then there's another part of me that goes he will stick with Sufal. However, he has had a mare, and that is not great.
It's not great. It's not great, no.
But then equally, you take into consideration he can get forward. When he does get forward, he's got a couple of assists, and plus he can whip in his secret weapon if he brings it out of the blue, and that can be quite devastating.
You're right. You do what you get what you don't get from Ben Johnson in terms of what you get from Soufal is obviously the number of assists. You know, we know from his long ball he's got the most created chances by throw-ins by anyone in the top 5 divisions. So it is going to be these sort of percentages, increases, these sort of small increases, which give you different options. Now we've got another centre back. If we play back 3, we've got Emerson push more forward. I think, to be honest, Soufal does get a nod.
I think he does.
No slight on Ben, but I just think these games. It's very similar to the games like when Moyes' job's on the line or whatever. What does he do? He usually plays Souček. He usually plays Cresswell. He usually, it's the same. It's the same people he brings in.
And by bringing Soufal in and starting for West Ham doesn't mean that Ben Johnson won't feature. I think Ben Johnson will feature, depending on how Soufal is playing, within reason. And that's a great option to bring on when, say, 60 minutes in, give Ben Johnson 30 minutes, get that ball, play in that same position, and get forward. And you've still got that protection, from the rest of the team. Like, that definitely does give us an option. So I'm okay. With Soufal starting as long as he's back to his best and gives us that threat moving forward. But hopefully now with the 3 back there, it gives a little bit more protection. Please be mindful of the fact that I'm not thinking this is in a dead set. Oh, wow, this is great. I know who we're playing, so it's okay. I'm just trying to pack. Trying to pack it out a little bit.
But also he's got the shit game out of his. I'd rather have a shit game against Wolves and he won the game rather than have a shit game tonight and they turn us over 4-5-0 and what's the point in going to London Stadium next week? You know what I mean? So actually I think that's, and again, he's got these Patrick Schlick, he's got obviously Adam Glossek's not in the side. But there's a few sort of Czech compatriots who'll be maybe lining up against sometime throughout the game tonight. Right, so double pivot to I think it's pretty obvious it's the only 2 midfielders we've got left in it. In terms of Souček and JWP. Obviously JWP scoring at the weekend. That was good. Maybe give him a little bit of confidence.
To be honest with you, I think JWP's actually been doing okay even without that goal. I thought he's actually had a couple of decent performances when he's been called upon. So I'm okay with that. Obviously, we will miss the engine of Alvarez, but do you know what? Like, Souček does again go under the radar, but he's been here, done that, wore the t-shirt. And James Ward-Prowse has been very successful for West Ham in Europe. So long may that continue. And you know what could be his place tomorrow? I mean, will they have come up against a set piece specialist? I know he's not necessarily, well, he has obviously with that corner, but he's been very important to us for getting many goals this season. So I think what we need is, and you've said it, Russ, look at the 3 men at the back and Tommy Souček in the middle, and you've got James Ward-Prowse taking those corners, and you've got those 4 men without even talking about the rest of the team. That does give us a fighting chance. It gives us a fighting chance. So yeah, fair.
It does. And I think that is going to be those incremental differences. I think so having JWP on the pitch makes an incremental difference, because when we do get those opportunities, those set plays, you've got someone who has a better chance of getting a decent ball in than many others. It doesn't necessarily every game, not every set play he puts in is bang on it set piece, but he has got statistically a better chance of getting the ball in the box than someone else. So it is, and it's going to be those. Right, okay.
And then we're looking at that though. You've got obviously Tommy Souček, who we know will sometimes, unless he's told to sit, will push in an advanced position. The concern you've got there then is, because we're going to talk about the 3 in a minute, and the concern is that 3 who go up top could just be the gap between them and the midfield. We know that Kudus will track back a lot. We know Paqueta gets stuck in, all that sort of stuff. But the problem is the gaps, and I hope what we don't find tonight is that we've got these big gaps opening up between the midfield and the forwards. Because as long as we've got a slight connection, then we've got a chance to score. But the minute we sit so far back and just leave Antonio up top himself is a long night. It's a long night for West Ham to deal with that constant threat coming at us.
Yeah.
And we're going to need their legs to be chasing every single ball. Again, looking at that team, my concern does sit over the right-hand side with Sufal, because we can see how much BAYER Leverkusen like to push the ball and move the ball around the park.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Florian Wirtz just literally sits on him.
Yeah,
just because that's a weakness that everyone we've played this season has exploited. You know, Anthony Gordon the other day. You know, the Wolves game. El Nouri was, although he was a left back, he was. You know, they put him sort of more up front in sort of a front three type thing. 9 times out of 10, he was standing right by Sufal. Just to try, because he knew he's got beating him at pace.
And it's interesting because this team, the way that we're going with this formation, is pretty much going to be a carbon copy of the formation that probably BAYER Leverkusen are going to come at us with.
Possibly, yeah. They do play 3 at the back. They tend to. So we'll put our Brazilian Magnifico in. He'll be there.
Absolutely.
On the left. And actually, I quite like him on the left in that respect, because him and Emerson play better, I think. I think Emerson plays better when he's got Paqueta in front of him. We know Kudus is going to go on the sort of right-hand side.
And on those two players, I think they possibly had 2 of their worst performances for West Ham at Wolves. And after the game, I actually said 5 of the best things I learned about that game was I was glad that they had that bad game then, because it's very rare that you have your best players have a consecutive spell of being crap, or both of them being crap at the same time. That's extremely rare. I can't remember on paper, Russ, the amount of times that you usually get one or the other that does well than the other, but none of them did. They were turning into corners, and they will know that their standards weren't where they needed to be. So I think that they'll be, not that there's a different level of motivation, but I think they'll be really at the level of going, I need to prove my performance, because last week wasn't great, and we scraped through that win.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then we'll put the big man up top, I think.
Who is a threat, Russ? He's been nothing shy of brilliant since he's been coming back from his injury.
Yeah, you're totally right.
And I honestly, I can't think of another player like him, and therefore, again, I'm sounding really positive about this whole team here. But what goes in our favor is Antonio is unique.
Yeah,
and he's probably our USP for the game tonight.
Yeah, you're probably right. And I think what will happen is, to be honest, it will end up more like this, in all honesty. I think it'll end up like this, to be honest. He'll be pushed because he actually spends more time on the left-hand side than up front. And I think Paqueta will be in the middle, and I think and he'll almost like be that third midfielder, and you'll almost have 5 in midfield, or five at the back, 3 midfield, sort of 2 up front. And considering you've got our top goal scorer out, considering we've got Alvarez out, considering Calvin Phillips is out as well, that ain't a bad side. I think
it's not a bad side at all. You can absolutely see where some of the weaknesses are. We know in my opinion, obviously Sufal, obviously Aguerd's not played a lot of game time, change of formation again. The worry about having those gaps between midfield and up top. But what we do know is Paqueta and Kudus have that engine, and we need them. We need them to do their tracking back and support mechanisms. And then, fair play, we do have an option. We do. Like, that gave me a little bit more confidence on not just relying on 11 players. I think we now can rely on 13 players, because we've got Ben Johnson on the bench who could come on and change the dynamic of the game. That could mean that we go to a back 4, take Sufal off, or even put him straight in the midfield if we needed to give us that engine and attack, going forward.
I mean, he could end up playing 4 at the back, and Ben Johnson could play right wing or left wing, because he's done that. And it's not ideal, but he'll play a good game, because he'll always try hard. And as you said, Ben Johnson coming in, he could come off for if we are winning, God forbid, he might throw him on as a CDM run. I thought he played all right as a CDM. He similarly could come on and play as a right-sided back three as well. Played that a lot in the under-21s as well. And, it's always useful to have Ben Johnson in the side for that exact reason, as you said. And I think, looking at, we could throw Danny on if we need him. I think
who's also unique to the situation to Bayer Leverkusen. I think they've never saw. Well, they will have saw Fox in a box, obviously, but not Danny Ings in a box.
Yeah, and then we do have the lesser spotted Cornet as well. So, he may get some minutes on Sunday.
I tell you what, it would be so funny if we do all this and then suddenly it's just like for like, and he puts Cornet in. And do you know what's really interesting about Cornet, Russ, is if you remember back to his Burnley days, right? I feel really sorry. I don't understand the whole Cornet situation.
No.
But he came into his own to. Did Burnley survive, or did they go down still with him?
They went down.
They went down, but he gave them a chance.
Yes.
And he is absolutely capable. Like I'm a bit confused at why he's not had a bit more game time. But sometimes at the business end of the season, you need to rely on someone like back in the old days when you didn't have the transfer window, like a new signing, like the Hartson and Kitson, like something like that. Someone new, someone fresh, someone that's not been in the side, someone that could get at someone and could end up being a hero as such. I'm absolutely smoking a pipe here, but it's just imagine.
Well, if you look back at it, you think about someone like. You feel like, look back at the Seville game, for example. So when the Sevilla game was, who went and got the winner? Yarmolenko. Do you know what I mean? A guy who was really nowhere near the first team. But because of everything that happened in the war, he became this sort of prominent, and he scored the winner. And then he scored the winner against Villa, wasn't it, the week after or something like that? And stranger things have happened at sea. Yeah. We'd all love to see us, proved wrong. We like Craig Dawsonism, but I just think, I think the facts. I think it's telling that he'd put on, he put Aaron Cresswell rather than putting on Cornet when Bowen went off, and he tends to put Ben Johnson on, and even now without Ben Rama and Fornals, in the club at all, he's still not getting any game time. He's not even getting in. He's not even. They're not even throwing him on for a. You think he would be an ideal candidate for an under-21s run out? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They can play overage players, but they don't, and they could easily have played Cornet. And Christ, they needed in the under-21s. They had to recall bloody Callum because they're so desperate for players at the moment. So it's. I think it's more of a. Yeah, I personally think the whole thing about Cornet is I think they're scared of him breaking down. And then having to pay him out. Yeah. There's a reason why no other clubs went in for him. People looked at him, but we know he was crockish. He was absolutely crocked. But which is a shame. But these things happen. I think that'll do.
That'll do. Just remain positive. Get behind the team. Let's just take it as it is. Let's we know who we're playing. We know who we're up against, and we're going to play ball, and it's going to be a big matchup. They've got an experienced Premier League player in the middle of the park, Xhaka. Who's been there, done that, wore the t-shirt, European football, and found a new lease of life at the club. We've got a player we've been tracking in their defence, Jonathan Tah, and let's not forget the fact that Tim Steidten does kind of know a little bit of inside knowledge. He'll be doing a little bit of his work on it, passing that information through. Sure. So listen, I know we're positive. I'm positive. Let's just get at them and fingers crossed, man. I'm buzzing. Let's do it.
Yeah, and let's just hope, we're still in the tie by the end of the game. That's by the end of the first. This obviously is just half time when this game finishes, and I fancy us against anyone at Argaff. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
Night time, the fireworks will be extra fireworky. The flames will be hotter. Tony will be giving it even more. Everything will be thrown up to 11, and we'll have the tifos and shit. And I'll even take a narrow loss tonight. In all honesty, a 1-0. Don't forget we're 1-0 down against Freiburg, and against Sevilla. In the Europa League competition 2 years ago, and then we took them back to London Stadium and did them. And it would be right so David Moyes to beat Bayer Leverkusen and be the only team to beat in this. It was so David Moyes, innit? It's just one of those things where I can see it because it's so not unlikely, but the odds are stacked against us. It's these type of games,
they are, of course, they are. Yeah,
where it just happens.
But you know what, Russ? You qualify. You fight for these games. These are the games that you want.
Yeah, totally.
I've said all along I want Milan. Like I would have loved Milan. The bigger they come, the harder they fall. The group stages, like that's what people remember more. It's not that you take away any of the credit for West Ham, who we've beaten in the group stages and all that sort of stuff. But you know what? On paper, yes, I remember Olympiacos more than I remember Freiburg. Well, I don't, but you know what I mean, because Olympiacos are the European side out of those two.
Oh, we've been
Lyon, Sevilla,
Yeah. I mean, we've been done over with our group. You look at the side, and I've always said this, the sides we got on loan, on the group stages rather, for all three competitions have been crap, compared to some of the teams we could have had. Olympiacos in 3 years has been our biggest group team by pedigree. Obviously, it's different when you get to the business end, but in terms of the group stages, we've never had a glamour tie. And obviously, the prize for whoever gets through in these two legs is a trip to Milan or Rome.
Yep.
That'd be lovely.
Look at it as well, Russ, is we are 5 games away from the Champions League. Removing the league thing, we're 5 games away from the Champions League.
We're 5 games away from me probably retiring afterwards, because I don't think to play the Champions League music is like, for a match day DJ, is like I can't get any more.
The ultimate.
The champions. Not this anticipation crap that we play for the Europa League and Conference. But anyway, now Anton's off now. He's going to have a party. He's Big Jim's having a watch along, his own watch along. You're not invited, people. You're not invited. You've got me. No subtitles needed tonight. You got me. You don't need to turn your mic down, your headphones down tonight. I got me on, but
you don't need to turn them down with me anyway, because when I scream, my microphone doesn't work. It doesn't work.
I love the way you managed to top out your own microphone. That's brilliant. But yeah, we'll hopefully we'll catch. Well, so we do the watch along, and Anton might jump on for a review show or whatever later on, and then we'll have a proper debrief tomorrow, and then obviously press conference tomorrow for ahead of the Fulham game on Sunday. Don't stop these weekends.
Does not stop.
No. And don't forget, you don't miss anything. We've had Alex doing his preview. That was up yesterday. Budgie on last night. We had the Dave Moyes press conference late in the evening yesterday as well, and Kurt Zuma press conference. And take care, everyone. Enjoy the game in a few hours' time. And for myself and for Mr. Baker, take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and let's see what happens, shall we? Let's see what happens.
Come on, you Irons.
Come on, you bloody Irons.